Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's such a wonderful day. I am so thankful to God for everything that He's done, He's doing, He will do. He is such an awesome God. He is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I am so happy to be with you today and for you to be with me. We're talking about the power of intimidation today, and I'm going to have to change these cameras out. So let
Let
me
me
change
change the
the
camera.
camera.
Okay. The power of intimidation. And so I'm going to have to, I hope this camera doesn't fall, but I'm going to have to turn it around here. So I have to go to, I've been talking about this camera for the longest, the computer camera. So I'm on my phone. I'm changing to my phone right now. So the lighting is not so super here, but I'm going to try to get it right. Okay, dear God, as I sit before you to speak, I pray to you that my soul you will keep. And if I should die before I finish, I pray to you, dear God, in the name of Jesus, that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. Amen. It's a pleasure. I say thank you for being with me. I welcome you to Point of View. And I don't know why the camera light is not doing like it should, but here I am. So it could be the curtain behind me. I'm not sure. So just bear with me here, please. Okay. Hi. Thank you for being with me. I'm going to have to do the best that I can. Okay. Do the best that I can with what I have to deal with. And when you've been in this business and doing this a long time, you can make do with things that you don't think you could make do with. Today I'm talking about the power of intimidation. And this thing is trying to intimidate me today. But I was thinking about Leon Spinks when he and Sugar Ray had that championship fight. And Sugar Ray said, no, Sugar Ray didn't say it. Leon Spinks said, Sugar Ray don't intimidate me. I'm not going to let this camera intimidate me. Sugar Ray, don't intimidate me. That's what he said. Okay, now let me change my Bluetooth out. Change my Bluetooth here and go from there. Done. Okay, it's going to pop in here just a little bit. Okay, all right. Hopefully you hear me. Yes, yes, it's doing it. So the light here, let me see. I'm going to turn this light off. That doesn't help. So there is something not right about this. So I'm going to turn the camera off, okay? I'm going to get it going here. Let me turn the camera for just a few seconds, but I'll keep talking, okay? Because I need to try to rectify the situation here. See what's going on here. Okay. Now let me see if that's any better. No, it's not, but forgive me today because I think it really might be the light from the window. So whatever it is, I'm not going to keep messing with this because I don't want it to fall over. Talking about intimidation, but I'm not going to let it intimidate me to stop in the webcast. Hi, hi, hi again. I hope you're feeling well. I'm going to go into the talking about the intimidation, and I am just so, like I said, so thankful to be able to come to you today. And intimidation, we're going to go into that, the psychology of intimidation. And I thought about this, I think it was yesterday, I was watching a movie. You know, I like to watch movies, I like to watch shows, different shows. And this lady, let me see who, I can't think of the actress, but it was a situation that she got into. She never hadn't seen a long time. You know how we haven't seen our classmates or our workmates in a long, long time. Either we've left the job, they've left the job, they've gone their way, we've gone our way, but then 20, 30 years later we see them. So she met up with him, and so they decided to go and have, I think it would have a drink. And they had a drink, and so they started talking about their lives, and then she revealed something about her marriage, and then they ended up in one of the restrooms, and they ended up making out, but they did not go into, uh, what we say, all the way. And she came to herself, and she went home. But this guy was a stalker. He had mental problems. She didn't know it. But then so he had to be dealt with, and so he had something over her, and he was intimidating her. And I'm thinking, why do people let other people intimidate them, hold stuff over their heads? Why don't they tell somebody what's going on? I know situations are tricky and sticky many times, and dangerous situations that people get into is not all just talk. You have to think, and you have to pray about these things, and you have to know what the right thing is to do. And so some people let people hold things over them, and they let them intimidate them into doing what they want them to do. And I think it's such a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And so I'm thinking, why doesn't she just go ahead, come clean with her husband, and let him know what's going on? But it didn't come to that, and you can kind of imagine all the other stuff that happened after that, because they had to deal with him, but not after he had wreaked havoc in their family. Okay, so he intimidated her. So what does intimidation mean in psychology? Intimidation is the act of making others do what one wants through fear. Okay? Intimidation is a maladaptive outgrowth of normal competitive urge for interrelational dominance, generally seen in animals, but which is more completely modulated by social forces. So, what does psychological intimidation mean? I mean, emoji cut, emoji cut, okay? Emojicut.com. What does psychological intimidation mean? And I feel for people who are intimidated. Like I said, when I started out, I was thinking about uh, Leon Spinks when he and Sugar Ray were getting ready for the championship match. And he said, Sugar Ray, don't intimidate me. And so we have to learn how to not be intimidated, but we're going to talk about what intimidation is. And the psychological intimidation, what does it mean? So mental intimidation means threatening to harm the lives, health, honor, property, or legitimate interests of the intimidated person, causing them to have grounds to be scared, hence having to be subdued, and includes threatening to set fire to the house, kill relatives, disclose personal lives of the intimidated persons. And we've heard people who have been held captive for years psychologically, and they've been physically mistreated for years and years. And then when they finally be able to break away from it or tell somebody, and they say, well, why did you stay in this so long? And they say, because the person said they would kill my family. The person said they would do this. The person said if I told somebody, they would do this. That's intimidation, okay? It's a type of psychological slavery, all right? And so many of us, I think every person has been uh, intimidated, and thank God we have overcome it and we didn't let it consume us, okay? And some of us have been intimidated and might not have been on purpose, because somebody said to me one time, you know, I'm intimidated by you, but I don't have anything. I just do what I do. I don't intend to intimidate anybody, and I'm pretty sure People have probably said that to you. You said that about somebody or to somebody because certain things they do and how they carry themselves and everything is intimidating to people. And so that is what brings out jealousy and envy and strife and all of those evil thoughts in people's minds is because they are intimidated by someone else and that person doesn't even know that they are intimidating to that person. So we will go on. What does intimidation mean in psychology? The act of others, of making others do what one wants through fear. Okay? Now, what does intimidation do to a person? Intimidation can refer to the act of making someone feel timid or afraid, like what you sometimes do to your brother, or it can also refer to that fearful feeling itself. Intimidation might make members of a jury hesitate to convict a defendant. We've heard about that too, because the jurors have been uh, intimidated by the accused, by someone by them. They have been threatened and their families have been threatened. It's so much that goes on. My goodness. So now the psychology of how to deal with intimidation. But I want to go and talk some more about this intimidation, manipulation. We've heard all about it. My goodness. And now I am in psychology.fandom.com. Psychology.fandom.com. Intimidation. Let's talk about this intimidation. Intimidation is the act of making others do what one wants through fear. Intimidation is a maladaptive outgrowth of normal competitive urge for, uh, excuse me, please excuse me, my goodness, interrelational dominance, generally seen in animals, and I read that. And it, like all behavioral traits, it exists in greater or lesser manifestation in each individual person over time, but may be more significant compensatory behavior for some as opposed to others. Behavioral theorists often see intimidation in children as a consequence of being intimidated by others, including parents, playmates, and siblings. It is so sad. It is so sad. But one thing I say, I will, whatever it is, I will not be a victim of intimidation anymore. I don't ever plan on being intimidated, uh, being a victim of intimidation. And there's always a way to escape that. You just have to be wise. You have to plan. And the first thing is you depend on God. And I just have to say that because that's the only way you're going to get out of it. Intimidation may be employed consciously or unconsciously. And remember, I was saying that sometimes, people are intimidated by us, and we have no idea. We're just going about our daily lives, doing what we do, and people are intimidated by us. Okay, so it could be conscious or unconscious, and a percentage of people who employ it consciously may do so as a result of rationalized notions of its appropriateness, utility, or self empowerment. Intimidation may be manifested in such manner as psychological threat, glowering countenance, emotional manipulation, verbal abuse, purposeful embarrassment, and or actual physical assault. And then also sometimes we allow ourselves to be intimidated because we don't want the intimidator hurt. I almost said hurt it. Okay, we don't want the intimidator hurt because we care for them and we love them and we believe that they love us, that they deeply care for us, and then we don't want them to be hurt, but yet we suffer ourselves to be intimidated by them trying to protect them. It's happened before. Been there, done that. Okay, so it could be conscious or unconscious. And so we know we never ever want to be an intimidation to people, unhealthy intimidation. Okay. Now, thoughts of life and love. And so now I'm in thoughts of life and love.com talking about psychological tricks for dealing with intimidated people. I'm going to go to another one right here because I'm going to do the problem before I give you the solutions to it. Okay. So have you ever been intimidated by someone? I mean, just tormented psychologically or physically? I know many people have. Psychology Today. Psychology Today. You're the intimidator or the one who just wants to get away. My goodness. The intimidation factor. I want to read the intimidation factor. It can be daunting to encounter people who are physically formidable, ultra rich, super smart, or generally high powered. We've all been around people like that, okay? But there are ways to manage such interactions with grace and confidence, whether you're the intimidator or the one who just wants to get away. This is the intimidation factor. Psychology Today. Hello, thank you for being with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate you being here with me. It makes me feel good that someone is here with me and supporting me. Now, let me, since I have to pull my monitor over some. So and here's another. When he ran into an injured hiker on a remote mountain trail, Bill Stratton just wanted to help. He'd come around a bend to find two young women, one of whom had hurt her leg so badly she couldn't walk. Stratton, a poet who teaches writing at the State University of New York's Plattsburgh campus, happens to be a trained in wilderness rescue. He's also 6'5" and 250 pounds, with a booming voice and abundant facial hair that on winter hikes tends to frost over into what he describes as an ice beard. It can make him a startling figure in the woods. And I'm thinking about this, and I talked about Equalizer, the one that Queen Latifah does. And I said I like all three of the series in the Equalizer, but I was talking about Latifah and the one that they did Sunday. And she was training her daughter. Of course, now her daughter wants to be trained to protect herself and her family like her mother does. So Latifah decided that she's going to do some of the training too. So she took her out and she was having her to case her surroundings and teaching her to be aware of the things surrounding her and the atmosphere and be able to read her surroundings, read the atmosphere and all of that. So the daughter, she's so used to doing her defensive moves and all of that. So when she took her out, Robin is her name on the show, but Latifah is who the star is. So she took her out. She took her out like in a park area. And so this tall man was coming towards them. And he was tall and he was intimidating. And so Latifah asked her, how will you deal with him? And the daughter was trying to size him up and everything and saying what she would do and everything. And Latifah said, flight. She said he's 6 feet something, he's this, and what she was saying, he's intimidating, he's bigger than you. And sometimes, rather than fight, you have to take flight. That means run. She said, run, okay? And so this is, people can be intimidated and they don't mean to be. So it's talking about this man, 6'5" and 250 pounds with a booming voice. And then his hair changes like and he's trained for the woods, so he comes across and he helps these people. So we say conscious and unconscious intimidation. So he said, hi, my name is Bill, and I know first aid. Can I help you? He asked the women, hoping to project non-threatening helpfulness. He smiled, kept his hands in his pockets, and remained at a distance. But he could see the fear in their faces. The standing woman immediately yelped, "No!" The injured woman took longer to respond, as though thinking of the right words to get rid of him. "I'm waiting for a helicopter," she finally said. Stratton knew there was no helicopter on the way, but he also knew that saying so and sticking around would only make the pair more uncomfortable. We're talking about intimidation. This is psychology today, okay? So he hiked on and eventually came across a ranger who headed up to help. The women got off the mountain safely, but it bothered Stratton to know that they counted him among the dangers they faced that day. "I was doing everything I could think of to not be intimidated," he says. "I hate that's how I'm perceived." He said, "I hate that that's how I'm perceived." And it happens a lot because he's a man of stature, he's big, has a booming voice, and it's just an intimidation to so many people. The power of intimidation. Okay, so intimidation plays a role in our social interactions every day. Some people present as physically intimidating. Others are imposing because of their personality, intellect, their wealth, or their social status. Still, others may remind us of someone who spooked us in the past. And we've seen people that have made us we've been kind of leery of because of experiences in the past. And so some people we see, they remind us of those people, or some situations, some atmospheres, some environments remind us of things that intimidated us. Okay? So still others may remind us of someone who spooked us in the past. So whatever the source, we rarely discuss it openly, so the people who intimidate us often have no idea how we see them. That can carry real risks, since the feeling of being intimidated can trigger a fight or flight response, just as any other perceived threat does. And I know my camera is not um, like it should be. I think I'm going to, because I think it's this light right here, but I'm not gonna bother. Please excuse the light situation today because I'm using my phone. And so whatever the source, we rarely discuss it openly. So some people who intimidate us, sometimes they have no inkling that we are intimidated by them. It's just the thing. So that can carry real risks, since the feelings of being intimidated can trigger a fight or flight response, just as any other perceived threat does. So people who are easily intimidated, especially those for whom self esteem is a challenge, may find their behavior changing for reasons they don't always realize. And even the most seemingly secure individuals get intimidated sometimes, though not always by whom you'd expect. And that is the truth. That is the truth. So now we'll go to the big misunderstanding, talking about the power of intimidation. Intimidation is something, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. The fact that Jason Pena is built like a linebacker was a clear asset on his high school football team. It also helped him become a bouncer at the Houston bar, where he now works as a bartender and manager. But he rarely throws his weight around. Friends describe him as a softy, and co-workers call him Peanut. As a bouncer, he always tried to avoid physical confrontation. But while his size alone often persuades potential troublemakers to get in line, it can occasionally provoke a violent response. Some people see a big guy and want to prove themselves, Kenya says, especially if they've been drinking. Oh, yes, there's so many things that play into this. And we know that people have experienced that people, when they are not consuming alcohol or other things that might alter their psychological uh, being at the time, they're so nice and gentle, mild mannered, respectful, respectable. But when they start drinking or they start doing whatever they do that alters their mind, then that's when the intimidation tactics come. That's when so many things happen. So many things go awry. So many things happen. And people just intimidate them, and people are doing well. And we've seen examples, we've seen it on TV, we've heard people talk about it, that everything is good during the week. Everything is smooth. But on the weekend, when it's recreational time and the drinking starts or whatever, their consumption of whatever starts, that mind alters the mind, then alters the mind. Then that's where the trouble starts. And they say children started running, children start getting scared, the wife gets scared, the husband gets scared, depending on who it is. It's intimidating because things can cause people to intimidate. I'm telling you. So Stratton, who also worked at the for several years, says his size was more often a liability than an advantage on the job. He took at least 20 punches over the course of his bounty career, he says. One patron broke a pool cue over his head, Just by his size, he was intimidated. So the intimidating effect of physical size is one of the easiest to explain from an evolutionary perspective. We're talking about the misunderstanding, okay? People bigger than we are pose an obvious threat. They could hurt us. It's basic stuff, mammalian stuff, says psychiatrist Brent Ritter. Now, these nonverbal cues signal things that we pick up outside of consciousness and influence the way we perceive the other person and interpret their intentions. We may therefore be ready to fight an intimidating person before we understand why. And those of us who've unintentionally intimidated someone may be surprised when that person throws a punch or runs away, fight or flight, okay? Stratton would prefer they to be there, especially when it's someone with whom he aspires to form a relationship. He said, I never want to intimidate people when I'm teaching or at a faculty meeting, excuse me, not faculty, faculty meeting, or talking to the parents of my kids is the word he uses here, classmates, he said. I would say most poets and writers aren't the most social people, but I am social, I'm friendly, and I like meeting people. But I can see it come across people's faces. They'll tell me later, when I first met you, I was intimidated and nervous. I'm like, why? What was I doing? How can I not do it again? So those are wise questions, aren't they? Okay. For tall people, one answer could be to make themselves seem shorter. But it's not as simple as crouching down or hunching over, which can appear condescending. Crouching also forces people into a closed posture that comes across as unfriendly, Brenner explains. It looks a lot like looming. So the tall people I know who put people at ease find a way to lower themselves without being obvious about it, he says. Some, for example, simply widen their stance, which makes them seem a few inches shorter. It's sure noisy over here today. and it seems like the wind is blowing harder. I don't know. Stratton's preferred approach is to stay seated as much as possible, but he's still seeking a better way to convey that he's not a threat. My mom once got me a shirt that said, "Sometimes I peep when I laugh." That's about the least intimidating shirt I can think of, Stratton says, adding that he'd wear it all the time if it meant he elicit whatever is a normal response to meeting a person. Now, why do we retreat? That was talking about the misunderstanding. People misunderstand people because of their size. Thank you so much for being with me. I really, really appreciate it. This is Point of View. This is Shirley today. Cleester was called into work. I mean, they really depend on her at that job, and she enjoys it. She likes the job, and that is really wonderful because you know that saying that I came across that when you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. All right. So I miss her. I miss Eula and I miss Merethah. They will be back, God willing, okay? So while we retreat, talking about the power of intimidation, we've all been intimidated, and I believe all of us have intimidated someone, whether it was conscious or unconscious, okay? While we retreat, even giants aren't immune to intimidation. When I'm intimidated, it's almost never about size or loudness. Sometimes it's about the stakes, STAKES, Stratton says, such as when he interviews for a job. But I know that feeling, and it's terrible. The feeling intimidated typically boils down to a sense that the person you're interacting with is more powerful than you. Socially powerful people, for example, could be wealthy, attractive, intelligent, talented, or even just incredibly charming. So, because these qualities are valued by others, they elevate the people possessing them to a higher perceived social status. And so we are, when we go, like on an interview, like you said, job interview or for something else, we know that the person has the power to hire or not. And so sometimes we really feel intimidated because we might really want that job or that position or whatever. We know that that person has the power, okay, to say yay or nay. All right. So then there are those who occupy a position of power, even absolute or relative to you, such as a police officer pulling you over for speeding, and that is so intimidating. Even when we pass a police officer pass by, that's intimidating because we know we're not disobeying the law, we're not speeding, stop at the light, stop at the stop sign, we're doing everything right, but it's just intimidating. And that's because of things that we have heard, witnessed, and all of that things we hear every day. So that is intimidating. But all police officers are not bad. They are here to help us, okay? They are here to help us. One way we react to those power differences is by deferring to people in higher positions, trying to please them and do what they say. That is so true. But we don't have to be afraid of someone to have this reaction. May I repeat that? We do not have to be afraid of someone to have that reaction. According to psychologist Jessica Tracy, director of the University of British Columbia's Emotion and Self Lab, we also show difference to powerful, oh, excuse me, I misread that word. Hi, thank you for being with me today. I talked about the power of intimidation, and intimidation is subjective, okay? So we also show deference to powerful people we respect and admire, she says, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Our instinct to follow people with higher social status is one of the ways we and other primates have succeeded in creating stable social structures that benefit from as I remember this gospel singer, my children are very protective of me, not protective of them too, but they are very protective of their mother and they breed the snakes and everything. So my daughter and I went to a concert years back. And so I spoke to one of the singers and sat down and she was with him. I just wanted to speak to him because he's really one of my favorite singers into eternity. And so he acted like I wasn't important enough for him to, just say, and I know that he is, and they be thinking they can read the room too and all that, we know all of that. But he didn't act so cordial to me. And my daughter, she said, Mama, nope. She told me to let him alone. And so she got me away from him. Okay, he has a son. I say he's going into because we don't know. It says sometimes those people are intimidated by people who might not have what we call the high status that they have. They might not. They might be more popular than other people and all of that, and we have no idea what their psyche is. And so, in one of his songs that I listened to, he said that he suffered with depression for many years. Now, if that was him, that could be why, you know, because people are leery of other people. And being in a status like that, being popular, and no telling what they've done, people be pulling on them and trying to get their clothes, trying to get them. There's all kinds of things, people stop them and all of that. So I can kind of understand that too. I say kind of did. I did understand that too, and I understand that. But when I heard that song, I said, "Wow!" And that could be because we expect people just because we go out and we sing and we entertain and uh, what we do. Then some of us and some of them just like to go home and be alone even though they're in a crowd, hundreds of people, thousands of people, they do what they do and then go home and just want to be there in peace alone in their own environment. I understand that, okay? So he might have been suffering from depression. I don't know. I don't know. So that could have been the thing. So, and then there was I'm not going to even talk about that one. This was a lady, and so I've thought about her differently ever since. So anyway, humans always have a fundamental desire for social inclusion. Studies show that we feel rejection in much the same way as we do physical pain. Some people with high status have an outsized influence on our social networks. Okay, their position represents another way they could hurt us. Okay, this word is outside, S-I-Z-E, so I don't know what it means. They wanted size aside, okay? They could ostracize you or turn others against you if they decide they don't like you, and that is so true. We've seen it happen. We see it happen with the press every day, with the written press, the printed press, and even the television, the streaming services and all that. When people put something out there and they want to hurt you, somebody is going to believe it. They have influence over someone. I'm talking about the power of intimidation. If they want to intimidate you, they know the tactics of how to do it. They could cut you out of important group decisions, says Joseph Marks, a PhD candidate in experimental psychology at University College London and the co-author of Messengers, Who We Listen to, Who We Don't, and Why. Okay? But if you have a strong alliance with them, The reverse could be true. So you're motivated to look for ways to win them over because these people who have these millions of people on their social media, their followers, and all of that, they have quite a lot of influence. And whatever they say, somebody is going to grab it and run with it. Yes, Sarah, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm talking about the power of intimidation, okay? And I'm going to get to how we deal with this intimidation also, okay? We don't even have to know a person well to admire or fear them. Status symbols alone are enough to sway our behavior. So you form stereotypes from a tiny piece of information, like what car they drive or what job they have, says Marx. And so we can, if we, that's why I learned a lesson years ago on how to get to know people for myself, if possible. There was a lady that I worked with and some people didn't like her and they talked negatively about her to me. I didn't know the lady, so we started working together and we got to know each other and we became friends. We were well acquainted with each other. As a matter of fact, she was my first student to enroll and be in my modeling school when I had it in Denison, Texas. So you have to know people for yourself. And so these influencers, they know they have the power to make or break a person socially. And some of them do it just because they can. But whatever influence I have, like I said, we have tens of followers. Like whoever I have an effect on, I have influence on. I want it to be positive. I want to spread positivity to everyone each time I come on, each time you play my recordings, my video recordings, my audio recordings, whatever. I want some positivity to come out of that and reach out and grab whoever hears it. Positivity, okay? So here's some status signals. Status signals. We're still in psychology today. One early study of how socioeconomic status inspires deference, conducted in the 1960s, measured the amount of time it took California drivers to honk at a car that didn't move when a traffic light turned green. In surveys, most people say they don't honk just as fast no matter what make of car they were stuck behind. Okay, let me do that again. In surveys, most people said they don't honk just as fast, no matter what make of car they were stuck behind. In reality, drivers gave high-end cars significantly more leeway, and that's a fact. That is a fact. Drivers took much less time to honk at a scruffy old sedan than at a shiny new Chrysler. That is a fact. And we know it is. Marx said, we defer to higher status without realizing it. And that is so true. And so will, people, I'm going to the scripture where God, was it Samuel told David's dad, said, men look on the outer appearance, but God looks on the heart. People will respect a person in a suit more than they will a person that's dressed casually or that is kind of scruffy, what we call scruffy or whatever. But that person in that suit, their heart could be just as black, and that other person who's not dressed in a suit could be pure in heart and pleasing God. We go by the appearance. We go by the appearance. So we've evolved to be lightning quick judges of where others stand in the social hierarchy. Sometimes the signifiers are obvious, like driving a Bentley, but we all signal status in the way we talk, act, and carry ourselves. And these nonverbal cues are surprisingly effective at conveying social rank. I remember one time a lady, she's a sweet lady. I love her so much. And we went to a concert together. She rode with me to a concert in Sherman. And when I was in Denison many, many, many years ago. And she said to me, and if you know her, she's the lady that speaks what's on her mind. And she said, Shirley, she said, thought you was stuck up, but you ain't stuck up, is you? I said, I don't think so. People look at you and they see the way you carry yourself, and they could be intimidated. And I'm not saying she was intimidated, but she said that she thought I was stuck up until we rode together that night. My clothes are uneven, y'all. I'm trying. That night, and she saw that I'm not a stuck up person. Okay. Thank you, God. Okay, but you never know unless someone tells you, and everybody is not going to tell you or state their opinion of you to your face, okay? But all signal status in the way we all signal status in the way we talk. I know I'm repeating it. Act and carry ourselves, and those nonverbal cues can are surprisingly effective at conveying social rank. There's research to suggest that some of these are universal, that people see certain signals for higher rank across different cultures, Tracy says. That includes what researchers call expansive postural displays, such as puffing your chest out, putting your hands on your hips, or otherwise occupying more physical space. So these gestures do tend to accurately reflect status, Tracy says. Think of man spreading, or of the executive who leans back and puts his arms behind his head at a meeting and takes up a lot of space. That's a very dominant gesture. We've seen all of that, haven't we? Even small gestures can make a big difference in how we're perceived. A 2013 study found that people were judged more intimidating when they just tilted their faces slightly, either upward or downward. Tilting in either direction makes our faces look wider, the researchers noted, and wider faces correlate with higher testosterone levels and greater aggression. We understand this effect even if we aren't consciously aware when we do it. Participants in the study also spontaneously tilted their faces when they were told to try to look intimidating. And we do that, don't they? Say, uh, get mad. And we just like that. Oh, this is so super, isn't it? Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for being with me. Talking about the power of intimidation. Starting is another power. Staring is another powerful intimidator. A sustained, direct gaze tends to elicit strong fight or flight reactions. A 2017 study found that people with lower social status were more likely to avoid someone who was staring, while people with higher status tended to approach and confront the onlooker. And in a 2016 study, Tracy and her colleagues found that deep, low pitched voices are perceived as a sign of dominance and leadership capacity across cultures. So, further, they observed that we modify the pitch of our own voices depending on whether we outrank the person we're talking to in terms of social status. So sometimes we find ourselves in situations in which we want or need to create a more intimidating impression. So we use these techniques intentionally. But Tracy warns that this can backfire If we can't back up the vibes, we try to give up, and that's my they say, bring it on. Okay, you're gonna act like this, bring it on. So you have to be able to back up. Look, okay. So this subtle, these subtle cues have a huge impact on how others perceive you, but they can be risky because people could see you negatively if they feel you don't deserve the power you project. She says, okay, because some people say the nerve of her, the nerve of him. Who does he think he is? Who does she think she is? They've got an opinion of you and they're not going to let you get away. I said, okay, you have to know the context and know your audience. Did I talk about reading the room, reading the atmosphere? You have to know. Oh, yes, you do. My goodness, this is going on and on. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to talk about how to deal with this intimidation. If I can get my to do what I needed to do. Okay, dealing with intimidation. Let's see here. So with it. Get it? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to get the room that I feel is short to deal with. Take tricks for dealing with people. Tricks with dealing with intimidated people. I don't want to get something out here and don't give you how to deal with it too. We all need to know this. And like I said the other day, everything that I bring to you, I learn from it also, and I enjoy learning. Don't you, don't you, don't you, don't you. There are numerous psychological tricks, and this is thought, let me see, thoughtsonlifeandlove.com. Thoughtsonlifeandlove.com. There are numerous psychological tricks for dealing with intimidating people. And the writer here says, and I'm going to outline the most important ones below. Some people tend to have natural abilities when it comes to dealing with others. They tend to be able to read other people quite well and can read between the lines. It's, oh, did my thing go off? Let me see here. See if let me go and look, make sure I'm coming across really good. Yes, I'm still coming across, but I think my uh, thing, here, I'm not sure. They might still be off. But anyway, let me go back to where I was dealing with the intimidation. Okay. There's psychological tricks in dealing with this. So the reason for intimidating behavior, let's see what the reason is for intimidating behavior. There are numerous, as a general rule, that I've often found that the people that I encounter who are aggressive, judgmental, miserable, rude, and just plain horrid usually have a reason for being the way they are. And this is exactly where I wanted to come to. I find it easier, I'm reading the writers, okay? I find it easy to look beyond the behavior to the underlying reason. I very rarely take people at face value. See, this is what I'm saying. Like I was talking about the lady that I worked with, the people that negatively talked about her, and I got to know her for myself. And then just like the lady told me that she thought I was stuck up, but when she was around me herself, then she saw me at a different light. And she said, you ain't stuck, you not stuck up, is you? And I said, I hope not. Okay. I don't think I am. So having said that, understanding the reasons doesn't automatically make me like someone. If you understand why they're intimidating, it still doesn't make you like them and want to be around them all the time, but at least you look beyond their actions and you know that something's going on, just like I was talking about that singer and like song was saying something fresh. for so many years. Okay, so there are so many underlying things that go on. Okay, so um, it does offer me more tolerance, though. So when we come across an angry and unhappy person, many of us take this behavior personally. It just take it personally. You learn, we learn, and we follow on, and we learn better. Then we can perceive it better, and we can deal with it better. Okay, that's why education, why studying and reading and all it's so good for us. We can understand so much. So we tend to respond with anger. She's this person that I remember when I worked at a hospital said we would have supervision to help us cope with the various personalities we had to deal with. The person who had come to talk to us explained that the aggression and intimidating behavior that we received most days from those held in the hospital was more about them than it was about us. She went on to explain that these negative behaviors were projections of inner misery and chaos. See, didn't I kind of say something like that? Thank you for being with me, talking about the power of intimidation, okay? It's the inner misery and chaos. Ever since then, when I meet someone who spews out anger and negativity, it offers me a glimpse of how awful their internal experience of the world is. A person who is content and has peace of mind is very unlikely to project anger and bitterness on a regular basis. And some people it seems like they're just so mean. It seems all the time. So the low inner child, 2 minutes. We've all been in a company of someone who makes us feel on edge, uneasy, or unsure of ourselves. There's a very clever way to deal with this situation. Every single one of us was a child once, fairly powerless and open to the rules, restrictions, and attitudes of the powerful adults around us. Adults can often seem like intimidating people when we are young and have to go along with what they say. If you tap into this energy mindset, it might just give you the edge when dealing with intimidating people. Imagine yourself talking to the little child inside the intimidating person. Be careful with this though. That I don't mean you should put on a condescending voice and offer them a what this technique does is allow you to frame the other person in a different light. It helps you to see them as a person who was once small and powerless, just like you. It resets the psychological perimeter. We often get caught up in the hype surrounding a person. They're surrounding a person. They're the CEO of each corporation. They're a celebrity. Whatever it is, it can lead us to thoughts that don't assist us. Okay? We automatically put ourselves on the bottom end of the seesaw. Remember, you can choose what to think about in situations too. Like I love you so much. Thank you so much for being such a pleasure. And I am going to play this. I'm getting ready to do. I said 2 productions. I have 3. One is no, 4, but one is really massive. I need a lot of people. But these 2 ones that I'm dealing with, please, if you would like to be, if you like to display your talents, come on and be with me, okay? You can. The information is on this coming up. I love you so much. Enjoy the remainder of your day, God willing. I'll see you. I'll be on Saturday evening at 7:39 p.m. Sunday morning at 7 a.m. We'll be back again with Point of View. I love you so much. Enjoy your day. And action. Hi everyone. I hope you're doing very well. I am, and I'm thankful to God because His blessings for me to see another day. This is a heads up. I'm getting ready to do 2 productions in the year 2023, God willing. And I would like for you to be a part of it. I'm holding auditions. So if you would like to audition for some of the parts, please contact me. Please contact me. We're going to have so much fun. And cut. That's a wrap. And action. Hi everyone. I hope you're doing very well. I am, and I'm thankful to God because He has blessed us to live to see another day. This is a heads up. I'm getting ready to do 2 productions in the year 2023, God willing. And I would like for you to be a part of it. I'm holding auditions. So if you would like to audition for some of the parts, please contact me. Please contact me. We're going to have so much fun. And cut. That's a wrap.